The alarm rang at 6 a.m., but he was already awake. He had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, numbers filled his mind. Rent due in 5 days. Electricity bill already late. School lunch payment still pending. He lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft sound of his daughter breathing from the other side of the thin bedroom wall. That sound was the only thing that gave him strength. He got up quietly and walked into the small kitchen. The apartment was old, but clean. He made sure of that. No matter how hard things became, he refused to let life feel messy for his little girl. He opened the fridge. Half a carton of milk, a few eggs, some bread, enough for breakfast. That was good enough. Today mattered. Today was the interview. For months, he had been sending resumes. Some companies never replied. Some said he was overqualified. Others said they were moving forward with other candidates. He stopped counting the rejection emails. But this one felt different. Bright Core Technologies was not a small company. It was respected, stable, the kind of place where people worked for years, the kind of place that offered health insurance and steady paychecks, the kind of place where he could finally breathe. He had ironed his only suit the night before. It was dark blue, slightly worn at the elbows, but still neat. He polished his shoes until they looked almost new. He started making breakfast just as small footsteps padded down the hallway. "Daddy," her voice was still sleepy. He turned and smiled. "Good morning, sunshine." She stood there in her oversized pajamas, hair messy, holding her stuffed rabbit. She rubbed her eyes and yawned. "Is today the big day?" she asked. He nodded. "Yes, today's the big day." She smiled in a way that made his chest feel tight. "You're gonna get it." He wished he had her kind of certainty. He placed scrambled eggs on her plate and cut the toast into small squares, the way she liked. While she ate, she told him about a drawing she wanted to finish at school. He listened carefully, asking questions, nodding, even though part of his mind kept drifting to the clock on the wall. Time felt faster than usual. After breakfast, he helped her get dressed and brushed her hair into 2 uneven ponytails. He tried again until they looked better. She giggled and said, "You're getting better at this." "I had a good teacher," he said softly. There was a quiet moment between them. They both felt the space where her mother used to be. He quickly grabbed her backpack and opened the door. On the walk to school, she held his hand tightly. "You won't forget to pick me up?" she asked. "Never," he said. He would never forget that. When he dropped her off, she hugged him longer than usual. "Good luck, Daddy." He watched her walk into the building, then turned toward the bus stop. He checked his watch. If everything went smoothly, he would arrive 30 minutes early. He liked being early. Being late felt careless, and he couldn't afford to seem careless today. The bus ride was crowded, but he didn't mind. He sat near the window, holding his folder tightly. Inside were copies of his resume, recommendation letters, and a photo of his daughter tucked between the pages. He didn't plan to show the photo. He just liked knowing it was there. He got off 2 stops early to walk the rest of the way. He wanted fresh air. He wanted to calm his nerves. The city was busy. Cars moved quickly. People rushed past him, talking on phones, carrying coffee cups, living their own urgent lives. He checked the building number ahead. Just a few more blocks. His heart began to beat faster, but not from fear, from hope. He imagined calling his landlord later that evening. "I'll have the rent next week." He imagined telling his daughter, "We're okay now." He imagined sleeping through the night without waking up to worry. As he approached a busy intersection, the pedestrian light turned red. A small crowd gathered on the sidewalk, waiting to cross. That's when he noticed her. An elderly woman stood slightly apart from the others. Her coat looked expensive but old-fashioned. Her silver hair was neatly tied back. She held a small handbag and leaned slightly on a cane. At first, he didn't think much of it. Then the light changed. People began crossing quickly. The traffic was heavy, and drivers seemed impatient. The elderly woman stepped forward, but her foot hesitated. She looked confused. Cars on the right side started creeping forward before the crosswalk had fully cleared. Someone honked loudly. The woman froze in the middle of the street. He felt something twist in his chest. He looked at his watch. 10 minutes until the interview. The building was right across the intersection. Someone behind him muttered, "Come on." Another person moved around her, annoyed. The woman tried to take another step, but her balance shifted. Her cane slipped slightly on the painted line of the crosswalk. He didn't think anymore. He stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said gently, reaching her side. "It's okay. I've got you." She looked up at him with wide, uncertain eyes. "Oh, dear," she whispered. "I thought I could make it." "You're doing fine," he said calmly. He offered his arm. She held on to it tightly. A car honked again, longer this time. He ignored it. Step by step, they moved forward. Her pace was slow, uneven. He adjusted to her rhythm. The light began flashing red. He felt pressure building around them, the sound of engines growing louder. "You're almost there," he said softly. They reached the other side just as the traffic surged forward behind them. He guided her to the sidewalk bench. "Thank you," she said, breathing heavily. "I don't know what came over me. I felt dizzy." He knelt slightly to meet her eyes. "Are you okay? Should I call someone?" She tried to stand straighter, but swayed again. His stomach tightened. He looked toward the tall glass building across the street. The company logo reflected in the morning sun. He looked back at her. "I'm fine," she insisted, though her voice was weaker now. He checked his watch again. 7 minutes. If he walked fast, he could still make it on time. But her hands were trembling. People continued walking past them. He made a choice. "Let's sit for a moment," he said. "Take slow breaths." She nodded, closing her eyes briefly. He stood there beside her, torn between two responsibilities. One was waiting inside that building. The other was sitting on this bench. He thought about his daughter. If she were older and alone one day, he would pray that someone would stop for her. He pulled out his phone. "Do you have someone I can call?" he asked gently. She searched her handbag slowly, her fingers shaking. It seemed to take great effort. He glanced again at the building entrance. People in suits were walking in confidently. He swallowed. The woman finally found a small card with a number written on it. "My son," she said quietly, "but he's always busy." "That's okay," he said. "Let's try." The call went to voicemail. He tried again. No answer. He felt sweat forming under his collar. Time was slipping. He could feel it. He looked at her pale face. "Maybe we should get you somewhere cooler," he suggested. There was a small clinic sign half a block away. He helped her stand again, moving slowly, carefully. Each step felt heavier than the last. Behind him, the glass doors of Bright Core Technologies opened and closed as candidates walked inside. He didn't look back again. Not this time. He focused on the woman, leaning on his arm. "Thank you for not rushing," she whispered. He gave a small smile. "It's all right," he said. But deep down, he knew something important was changing. He just didn't know how much. They walked slowly toward the small clinic, just a block away from the intersection. Each step required careful attention. The woman's grip on his arm was firm but trembling. Her cane tapped lightly against the sidewalk, a soft rhythm that matched his own nervous heartbeat. He kept glancing at the clinic sign, willing the doors to be open and the staff ready. When they reached the entrance, a nurse spotted them almost immediately. She came rushing with a concerned expression, asking if everything was okay. He explained quickly that the woman felt dizzy and needed a checkup. The nurse gently guided the woman inside while he helped her settle onto the chair. She seemed calm but still very weak, leaning slightly forward with her head bowed. He checked the time again, realizing the interview was long past his original appointment. His stomach sank, but he pushed the thought away. Right now, this was more important. "Are you sure you'll be okay?" he asked softly, crouching beside her. He could see the faint worry lines on her face, her lips trembling slightly. "I will be," she replied in a weak voice. "Thank you for helping me. You were very kind." He nodded, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. "It's all right. I couldn't just walk by." The nurse took her vitals, checking her pulse and blood pressure. The woman's hands shook a little as she tried to answer questions. He stayed close, offering small words of comfort whenever she looked uncertain. Minutes passed like hours, and he could feel his anxiety growing. He kept picturing the interview room, the recruiters waiting, probably moving on without him. The thought twisted inside his chest, but he forced himself to stay present. While she rested, he noticed a water fountain nearby. He offered her a glass, and she took it with gratitude, sipping slowly. He stayed by her side, making sure she didn't get lightheaded. He tried to talk about small things, anything to distract her from discomfort. He asked if she liked flowers, about the weather, and if she had any pets. Her smile returned faintly, and that brought him a small relief. It reminded him of his daughter, how she always brightened up a room even when he felt like the world was against him. The nurse finished the examination and suggested she stay seated for a few more minutes. He insisted on waiting with her. He knew he couldn't just leave her alone in a strange place. Time ticked on relentlessly. He glanced at his watch again. It was too late to make it to the interview. The thought stung, but he didn't regret staying. He felt a sense of quiet satisfaction, knowing he made the right choice. Outside, cars continued to rush by, people hurrying to work or appointments, unaware of the small act of care unfolding just inside the clinic. He thought about how life sometimes puts us in moments where choices matter more than speed or efficiency. It wasn't about the job anymore. It was about the person in front of him, needing a hand when no one else stopped. The woman finally seemed more stable. She smiled weakly at him. "I think I can manage now," she said. "I just need a little rest." He helped her stand, supporting her carefully. She took tentative steps toward the door. Outside, the morning sun was bright, warming the street. He realized how many times people rush past one another without noticing those who might need help. He had been one of those people once, too busy to pause. But now, he understood the small importance of kindness, how it could ripple quietly through someone's life. She paused before walking away. "You're a good man," she said, looking at him earnestly. "Thank you." He nodded, giving her a reassuring smile. "Take care, okay?" As she moved down the sidewalk, he watched her until she disappeared from view. Only then did he remember the building across the street, the one where his interview had been scheduled. The image of the glass doors, the people in suits, the waiting recruiters, all came back to him. A pang of disappointment hit his chest. He had missed it, by a wide margin. He stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of failure pressing down on him. He thought of his daughter, of the promises he had made to keep their lives stable. How would he explain this? How could he tell her that even though he did the right thing, he had lost an opportunity he had hoped would change everything? The sound of his phone ringing startled him. He pulled it out quickly, hoping it was a reminder for a rescheduled interview. But it was not. The number on the screen was unfamiliar. He hesitated before answering, thinking it might be someone important or just as likely a wrong number. "Hello," he said cautiously. The voice on the other end was polite, but firm. "Hello, is this Mr. Harper?" "Yes, this is he," he replied, trying to sound calm even though his heart was still racing. "This is the receptionist from Bright Core Technologies. I'm calling to confirm your interview this morning. It seems you weren't able to make it." He swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Yes, I'm sorry. Something came up, and I couldn't make it in time." There was a pause on the line. "I understand. I just wanted to let you know that the hiring manager has moved on to the next candidate. Unfortunately, the slot has been filled." He felt the words hit him like a sudden cold wind. His stomach sank. Months of preparation, hope, and careful planning seemed to crumble instantly. He could feel the weight of failure pressing down. For a moment, he just stood there, unable to speak, staring at the street he had just crossed with the elderly woman. "Is there any way I can reschedule?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm afraid company policy is strict. Interviews are timed. No exceptions," the receptionist said gently. He nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "I understand. Thank you." He hung up the phone and leaned against the wall of the clinic. His head dropped, and he took a deep breath. For a moment, the city noises faded. All he could hear was the thump of his own heartbeat and the soft echo of disappointment. He had done the right thing, he told himself. He had helped someone in need. But right now, it felt like that right thing had cost him everything. After a few minutes, he straightened up. He couldn't change what had happened, The interview was gone. He had to move forward. He started walking back toward the bus stop, his mind heavy with thoughts of bills, rent, and the worried look he would have to give his daughter when she came home from school. He wondered if she would understand why he didn't have good news to share. He wondered if she would be disappointed, or worse, worried. The walk back was quiet. He passed the shops and the cafes, the early morning workers, the honking cars. Everything felt normal, oblivious to the small dramas unfolding in the lives of those they passed. He thought about how life rarely pauses for anyone, how it continues rushing forward, and how people are often faced with choices that feel impossible. Sometimes doing the right thing costs more than one expects. He thought about the woman again, her smile, her shaky hands, the way she had whispered her thanks. That image gave him a strange kind of warmth, a reminder that small acts of care mattered even if the world didn't immediately reward them. He thought about his daughter, her laughter, her small hands holding his, the hope in her eyes. That gave him strength. When he reached the bus stop, he leaned against the pole, watching the buses pass. He knew he had to get home soon. He had to be ready to face her questions, to keep her reassured even when he felt uncertain himself. He closed his eyes for a brief moment and let himself breathe, feeling the morning sun on his face. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. He had to keep moving forward. Finally, the bus arrived and he got on. The ride home was filled with familiar sights. The corner bakery, the small park, the library where his daughter loved to read. He watched the people through the window, wondering about their stories, wondering how many of them had moments like his own, where kindness and responsibility collided with life's demands. He thought about what he would tell her when she came home. He didn't have the news he wanted, but he had a story of courage, of doing what was right even when it was hard. That mattered. Somehow, he hoped she would understand. The bus pulled into a stop, and he stepped off, taking a deep breath of the familiar neighborhood air. He walked the last few blocks to his apartment, feeling the weight of disappointment, but also the quiet satisfaction of having helped someone in need. He opened the door, greeted by the soft smell of home, and heard the sound of little footsteps running toward him. "Daddy!" she called, her voice full of excitement and innocence. He smiled, scooping her up into his arms. "Hey, sunshine," he said. He held her tightly, feeling her small heart beat against his chest. The world outside could be harsh, unforgiving, and full of missed opportunities. But here, in this small apartment, in this simple moment, everything felt right. He put her down and listened as she chattered about her day at school, about the drawing she had made, and the friend who had helped her tie her shoelaces. He nodded, asked questions, and laughed when she laughed. The missed interview and the lost opportunities still lingered in the back of his mind, but he pushed it aside for now. He had done what he could. He had chosen kindness over ambition, integrity over speed. And while the world might not recognize it immediately, he knew, deep down, that he had made the right choice. Tonight, he would explain to his daughter that life sometimes doesn't go as planned, but that helping others always matters. And he hoped she would understand, hoped she would learn that even small acts of care could shape the kind of person one became. As he tucked her into bed that night, listening to her soft breathing, he felt a quiet sense of hope. The future was uncertain, yes, but he had faith that doing the right thing, no matter how costly it seemed at the moment, would eventually lead to something good. He kissed her forehead gently and whispered, "We'll be okay." And in that moment, for the first time that day, he truly believed it. The next morning, he woke up to the sound of his phone ringing. It was early, the kind of early where the city seemed half asleep, with only the distant hum of traffic in the background. He rubbed his eyes, thinking it might be another bill collector or some wrong number, but the display showed a familiar company name. His heart skipped a beat. He answered quickly. "Hello." A polite, professional voice greeted him. "Good morning. This is Bright Core Technologies. We would like to speak with you regarding your interview yesterday. Could you come in today for a meeting with the CEO?" He blinked, unsure he had heard correctly. "The CEO?" he asked. "Yes. We would like to meet with you personally. Please come at your earliest convenience," the voice said, then gave him the address and hung up. He sat on the edge of his bed, stunned. It didn't make sense. He had missed the interview yesterday. The slot had been filled. Yet here they were, asking to see him personally. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to steady his thoughts. What could this be about? A mistake? A second chance? He didn't know, but he felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness that made his chest tighten. Today, he thought, today could change everything. He quickly got ready, choosing the same suit he had worn yesterday. He polished his shoes once more and adjusted his tie. Even though it was the same outfit, it felt different now. This time, it wasn't just about proving he was capable. It felt like there was something larger at stake, something he hadn't expected. Before leaving, he went to check on his daughter. She was still asleep, the morning sunlight filtering softly through the curtains. He gently kissed her forehead. "I have to go out for a little while, but I'll be back soon," he whispered. He hoped she would understand when he explained later. The walk to the building felt surreal. The city buzzed with people going about their usual routines, but he felt a strange sense of focus. Every step brought him closer to something unknown, yet hopeful. He tried to calm his racing thoughts, repeating quietly to himself that he just needed to stay calm and present. When he arrived, the receptionist greeted him warmly. "Mr. Harper, the CEO is expecting you," she said, leading him through a series of glass doors into the elevator. The ride up was silent, except for the sound of the machine. His hands felt slightly sweaty, and he took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. The doors opened, and he found himself in a spacious executive floor. The sunlight reflected off polished floors and modern furnishings. He could see the CEO standing near a large desk, and sitting beside him was the elderly woman from the street yesterday. His heart skipped a beat. She looked at him with a faint smile, and for a moment, he wondered if this was some kind of dream. The CEO stepped forward and extended his hand. "Mr. Harper, thank you for coming. Please have a seat." He shook the man's hand, feeling the firm grip and confident demeanor. "Thank you for seeing me," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The CEO gestured toward the woman. "I want you to meet someone very important to me. This is my mother, Eleanor. She told me about what happened yesterday, and I wanted to hear from you directly." He froze for a moment. The woman had been the one he helped across the street, the one he had stayed with until she felt safe. He hadn't realized her connection to the company, or that she was the CEO's mother. His chest tightened with a mix of surprise and humility. I just saw that you needed help," he said slowly, choosing his words carefully. "I didn't know who you were. I just wanted to make sure you were safe." Eleanor smiled faintly, her eyes warm. "And that is why I remember you. Not because you were in a hurry or because of what you could gain, but because you chose to stop and help. That matters." The CEO nodded, looking thoughtful. "We value character here as much as skill, Mr. Harper. I heard from my mother what happened. The security cameras confirmed your story. You didn't ask for recognition or reward. You simply did what was right." He felt a lump in his throat. He had never thought of himself as heroic. He had just done what anyone should do. Yet here was the CEO, acknowledging his actions in a way that felt both surreal and comforting. I'm glad she's safe," he said, his voice catching slightly. "That's all I wanted." The CEO leaned back in his chair, studying him. Life often puts us in moments where our choices define us more than our skills. You had a choice yesterday. You chose kindness over punctuality. That choice tells me a lot about you. He nodded, unsure how to respond. The tension that had built over months of uncertainty and struggle seemed to dissolve slightly. For the first time, he felt recognized for more than just his resume or professional experience. He felt seen as a human being. Eleanor spoke again. "I insisted on independence yesterday, but I was unsteady. When he came along, I realized someone was watching out for me. That matters, no matter how small it seems." He smiled faintly, feeling both humbled and relieved. "I'm just glad I could help." The CEO shifted in his chair, his expression serious yet kind. "Mr. Harper, I would like to offer you a position here at Brightcore Technologies. Not just any position, but one that fits your skills and shows the leadership potential we see in you. Your actions yesterday indicate a man who can be trusted, someone who leads not only with knowledge, but with integrity." His mind raced. The lost interview, the missed opportunity, all of it suddenly felt like a distant memory. This was more than he could have hoped for. His chest tightened, not with fear or disappointment, but with an overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude. He tried to speak, but words caught in his throat. I don't know what to say. He finally managed. The CEO smiled. Just say you're ready to join us. We will provide the support you need, including flexible hours, so you can continue caring for your daughter. Family matters here, and we understand responsibility comes in many forms. He felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. After months of struggle, sleepless nights, and constant worry about how to provide for his daughter, he finally had hope. Real, tangible hope. And it wasn't just about the money or the job. It was about being recognized for who he was, for choosing to act with kindness even when life demanded speed and efficiency. Eleanor reached out, placing a hand lightly on his arm. Thank you again, not for the job, but for yesterday. That is what I will remember. He nodded, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. It was nothing, he said softly, though he knew she understood it was everything. The CEO handed him the employment contract, and he took it with trembling hands. He read to the terms, realizing that this was the opportunity he had been waiting for, one that would give him stability and a chance to build a future for his daughter. The words on the page felt real, almost like a promise from life itself. He shook hands again with the CEO, feeling a sense of connection that went beyond professional courtesy. It was a moment of mutual respect and recognition, one that reminded him of the power of simple choices and the importance of integrity. When he left the building, the sunlight felt warmer than before. The city noises were the same, but the world seemed different somehow. Each step felt lighter, more confident. He had chosen the right path yesterday, and now, unexpectedly, life had rewarded him. He thought about his daughter, about how he would tell her the news. The thought brought a smile to his face. He imagined her excitement, her laughter, and the relief in her eyes knowing that things were finally turning around. He could almost hear her say, "I knew you could do it, Daddy." The walk back to the bus stop was filled with a new sense of purpose. He noticed small details, the smell of fresh coffee from the cafe, the flowers in the window boxes, the way the sunlight glinted off the windows of the buildings. Life was moving forward, and he was moving with it, no longer burdened by the weight of yesterday's missed opportunity. As he rode the bus home, he watched the people outside, each absorbed in their own lives. He wondered how many of them had moments like his own, moments where a small act of care or courage could go unnoticed, but could make all the difference. He thought about how life often rewards patience and integrity in unexpected ways, how the choices we make in quiet, unrecognized moments sometimes define our future. He arrived at his stop, feeling a lightness he hadn't felt in months. The neighborhood was quiet, familiar, comforting. He walked the last few blocks to his apartment, his mind buzzing with excitement and gratitude. He opened the door and was greeted by the soft sound of his daughter's laughter. She had been playing quietly, waiting for him to come home. "Daddy," she called, running toward him. He scooped her up into his arms, holding her tightly. "Guess what?" he said, trying to contain his excitement. Her eyes widened with curiosity. "What?" "We're going to have a big change," he said, smiling. "Everything's going to be okay now." Her small hands reached up to touch his face, and she beamed at him. "Really?" she asked. He nodded, feeling tears of relief and joy well up. "Really?" he said softly. For the first time in a long while, he felt the weight lift from his shoulders. He had faced disappointment, missed opportunities, and uncertainty. Yet here he was, standing with his daughter in his arms, knowing that kindness, integrity, and a simple act of compassion had led to something greater than he could have imagined. He felt hope, real hope, flowing through him, ready to embrace the future together with her. He spent the rest of the morning unpacking the moment in his mind, replaying every detail from the meeting with the CEO and the woman he had helped. It was surreal. Just a day ago, he had been crushed, thinking he had lost a chance that might have changed everything for him and his daughter. Now, life had shifted in ways he could never have predicted. After lunch, he decided to call his best friend, someone he trusted completely. He needed to talk to someone about what had happened, to process the whirlwind of emotions that still roared inside him. He dialed the number quickly, his hands shaking slightly. When the line connected, he barely held back the excitement and disbelief. "You won't believe this," he began, his voice almost trembling. Everything that seemed lost yesterday, it turned out differently. Brightcore called me. They want me to join. The CEO and the woman I helped, it's all real. There was a pause on the other end, then a burst of laughter and congratulations. Wow, that's incredible. I'm so happy for you. You helped someone out of kindness, and look what happened. Life is a funny way of rewarding that. He nodded, even though his friend couldn't see him. It was true. He had only done what he thought was right, and it had led to something much bigger than he could have imagined. He laughed softly, a mixture of relief and disbelief, feeling the tension in his shoulders ease for the first time in weeks. He hung up and walked to the window, looking out at the busy street below. People hurried past, oblivious to the small miracles that could happen in the lives of those around them. He thought about how fragile and unpredictable life could be, how one small decision to stop and help someone could ripple far beyond what anyone could see. He thought about the woman, Eleanor, and the warmth in her eyes when she had spoken to him. There was something about the way she had looked at him that felt different, almost like she had known all along that this was the right path. He realized that kindness had a power he had never fully understood before, that it could open doors that seemed permanently closed. Later, he received an email from Brightcore with the official offer. As he read it, he could feel his heart swelling. The salary was more than he had expected, and the benefits were comprehensive. But more than that, the position reflected trust, responsibility, and an understanding that he had a life outside the office. They had considered his family situation, and that meant the world to him. He sat down at his kitchen table, a pen in his hand, ready to sign. His daughter ran in, her energy filling the room. Daddy, what's that?" she asked, pointing at the paper. He looked at her, smiling through the tears that threatened to fall. "It's something very special. It's going to help us have a better life." Her eyes widened. "Really? Are we going to be okay?" He nodded, scooping her into his lap. "Yes, we're going to be okay. Things are going to change for us, and it's all because of a choice I made to help someone yesterday." She tilted her head, her small brow furrowed in thought. Helping someone can really change things? He hugged her tight. Yes, sometimes even small acts of kindness can lead to big things. Life works in mysterious ways. She smiled, and in that moment, he felt a deep sense of peace. He realized that the lessons he wanted to teach her about integrity and compassion were not just words. They were truths lived out in his own actions. And now, they would see the results together. The day went on with a sense of normalcy, but also new energy. He completed small chores around the apartment, prepared a simple lunch for both of them, and even found a moment to read a story to her before her afternoon nap. Everything felt lighter, more hopeful. Even the sunlight streaming through the windows seemed brighter, reflecting the change in his life. Later, he returned calls to relatives and friends, sharing the news carefully, savoring their excitement and congratulations. Every call reminded him of the power of perseverance and character. It was one thing to get through difficult times, another entirely to be recognized for how you handle them. When the evening arrived, he took a moment to sit quietly alone. He thought about the past few weeks. The stress, the constant worry, the fear of not being able to provide for his daughter. All of it had been heavy, almost unbearable at times. But now, looking at the promise of tomorrow, he felt a renewed sense of determination and gratitude. He understood that life did not always follow a predictable path, and that sometimes taking a moment to do the right thing could change everything. He thought about Eleanor again. She had been vulnerable, needing help, and he had been there. That small act, done without expectation, had opened a door he never imagined. It was humbling, and it made him consider how often opportunities come disguised as responsibility or inconvenience. How often the right choice is also the difficult choice. The next day, he prepared to go to Brightcore for his first day. He dressed carefully, selecting the same suit, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. He reviewed his notes quietly, reminding himself that while this was an opportunity, it was also a responsibility. He needed to be ready to show that he was not just capable, but reliable and committed. As he walked toward the building, he thought about the journey that had brought him here, the months of struggle, the sleepless nights, the worry for his daughter, and the small daily acts of care that had kept him afloat. All of it had led to this moment. He realized that life's challenges were not just obstacles. They were shaping him, preparing him for moments like this. The receptionist greeted him warmly again, and he was led to the executive floor. The CEO and Eleanor were waiting. Their smiles were reassuring. It was clear they valued him not just for his professional abilities, but for the person he was. That realization settled over him like a comforting blanket. "Welcome," the CEO said. "We're glad to have you on board. We've structured your role so that you can contribute meaningfully while maintaining the balance needed for your family. We believe that this balance is essential for long-term success." He nodded, feeling a deep sense of respect for the company. This was more than a job. It was a place that recognized humanity, the reality that life outside the office mattered. It felt like a rare gift in a world often driven by deadlines and results alone. Eleanor looked at him and spoke softly. "You have a rare quality. It's not just about talent or skills. It's about who you are when no one is watching. That is why this opportunity is here for you. You earned it." He felt a lump in his throat and struggled to speak. "Thank you," he managed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do my best, always." The CEO extended his hand, and he shook it firmly, feeling a connection of trust and mutual respect. He knew that this was the beginning of something meaningful, a chance to grow, contribute, and provide a stable, happy life for his daughter. Walking back home, he felt lighter than he had in months. The city seemed friendlier, the sound softer, the sunlight warmer. Every step reinforced the lessons he had learned. That kindness matters, that integrity has value, and that sometimes doing the right thing can bring rewards that surpass any expectation. When he opened the door to his apartment, his daughter ran to him, her face lighting up with joy. "Daddy, did you have a good day?" she asked. He lifted her into his arms. "Yes, a very good day," he said, holding her close. "A very good day, because we're going to have a new beginning." She hugged him tightly, and he felt a sense of peace and hope unlike anything he had known in a long time. They were safe. They were together, and they had a future filled with promise, built not just on opportunity, but on the choices that defined their character and the quiet courage that guided them through uncertainty. As he tucked her into bed that night, listening to the soft rhythm of her breathing, he realized that life often works in mysterious ways. It rewards patience, kindness, and integrity in ways that are not always immediate, but always meaningful. And in that quiet, still moment, he knew they had weathered the storm and were ready for whatever lay ahead. The morning light filtered through the curtains as he woke up, feeling the quiet buzz of anticipation in the air. Today was different from any other day in the recent past. He got out of bed slowly, careful not to wake his daughter, who was still asleep beside him. Her small, steady breathing was the only sound in the room, and for a moment he just sat on the edge of the bed, reflecting on how far they had come. Life had not been easy. The months of uncertainty, sleepless nights, unpaid bills, and constant worry seemed like a distant memory now. Yet, those struggles had led to this moment. He had faced a decision that day on the street, helping an elderly woman who had seemed vulnerable and lost. At the time, it had cost him dearly. He missed the interview, and for a moment, he had thought everything was over. But now, that choice had opened doors he never imagined. He walked into the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast, humming softly to himself. He made sure there was enough for both of them, carefully cutting toast into small squares, as he did every morning, just the way she liked. The familiarity of the routine grounded him, and he felt a sense of peace that had been absent for far too long. When she woke up and came bounding into the kitchen, her face lit with excitement, he smiled. "Good morning, sunshine," he said, ruffling her hair. "Morning, Daddy. Can we have pancakes today?" she asked eagerly. He laughed. "We can, but only if you promise to help me clean up afterward." She giggled and nodded. The day felt light, filled with hope and the promise of new beginnings. After breakfast, he dressed carefully in a suit, ready for his first official day at Bright Core Technologies. The contract he had signed the previous day was still on his mind, a tangible reminder that integrity, kindness, and character could lead to life-changing opportunities. He straightened his tie and looked at his reflection in the mirror, feeling a mixture of nerves and excitement. This was more than a job. It was a chance to build a stable, meaningful life for his daughter, a life filled with possibilities. On the walk to the company, He felt a strange sense of calm. The city was alive with the usual rush of people and cars, yet it felt different. Every step seemed lighter, more purposeful. He thought about Eleanor, the elderly woman, and how a small act of care had created this ripple effect. The lesson was clear. Doing what is right, even when inconvenient, could change the course of a life. Arriving at the building, he was greeted by the receptionist with a warm smile. "Mr. Harper, the CEO is expecting you," she said, gesturing toward the elevator. As he rode up to the executive floor, he felt anticipation building. This was the place where his hard work, patience, and integrity would finally meet opportunity. The doors opened, and he was welcomed by the CEO and Eleanor once again. Their smiles were reassuring, and he felt instantly at ease. "Welcome, Mr. Harper," the CEO said. "We're glad to have you officially on board. We've designed your role to allow you to contribute fully while maintaining the balance you need for your family. We value that balance greatly." He nodded, feeling the weight of those words. This wasn't just about a paycheck. This was about understanding, trust, and recognition of the person he was beyond his resume. Eleanor looked at him, her eyes warm and sincere. "You have shown qualities that cannot be taught in a classroom or learned from a book. That is why this opportunity is yours." He swallowed, overwhelmed by gratitude. "Thank you. I'll do everything I can to honor this trust," he said quietly. The CEO smiled. "We know you will. Welcome to the team." The rest of the morning passed in orientation, meeting colleagues, learning about company policies, and understanding his responsibilities. Despite the formalities, he felt a sense of belonging. He was not just another employee. He was a valued member of a community that respected integrity as much as skill. That realization made every struggle of the past months feel worthwhile. During lunch, he stepped outside, taking a brief moment to breathe in the fresh air. He looked at the city around him, people hurrying to and from their destinations, absorbed in their own routines. He felt a sense of quiet pride knowing that his choices, his patience, and his courage had brought him here. Life had a way of rewarding those who stayed true to themselves, even when the path is uncertain. Returning to work, he approached the task with focus and determination. Every email he wrote, every meeting he attended, he carried with him the understanding that opportunity and integrity go hand in hand. He wanted to prove himself not just through results, but through character. Each small action mattered, and he was committed to making them count. By the end of the day, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The work was challenging but engaging. His colleagues were welcoming, and he could already see ways he could contribute meaningfully. Most importantly, he knew he had the support to balance his professional responsibilities with his role as a single parent. Walking home, he felt a renewed connection to his life, his daughter, and the world around him. The streets were familiar, yet they seemed brighter, filled with possibility. He reflected on the choices that had led him here. The act of kindness on the street, the patience, the courage to act with integrity even when it seemed inconvenient. Every moment had been a stepping stone toward this new chapter. When he opened the apartment door, the smell of home greeted him. His daughter ran toward him, her face radiant with excitement. "Daddy, did you have a good day?" she asked, bouncing on her toes. He scooped her up, hugging her tightly. "Yes, a very good day," he said. "A day that marks the beginning of something wonderful for both of us." Her eyes widened, filled with curiosity and joy. "Really? Tell me." He smiled, holding her close. "We're going to have a stable life now. We'll have new opportunities, and I'll be able to be there for you, always." She hugged him back, and in that embrace he felt a profound sense of peace. All the struggles, the sleepless nights, the fear, and the uncertainty had led to this moment. They were safe, together, and ready for the future. That evening, after putting his daughter to bed, he sat quietly, reflecting on the journey. He thought about Eleanor, about the choice to help, about how life sometimes tests people in unexpected ways. He understood now that integrity, compassion, and patience could create outcomes far beyond immediate understanding. He looked around his small apartment, seeing the simple, everyday items, the little drawings on the fridge, the school books stacked neatly, the tiny shoes by the door, and felt gratitude. This was more than just a place to live. It was a home, a foundation for the life he had always wanted to build for his daughter. As the city settled into the night, he knew that challenges would continue to come, but he was ready. He had learned that doing the right thing, even when inconvenient, could lead to profound change. And with that knowledge, he felt stronger, more confident, and filled with hope. He closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of his daughter sleeping peacefully, dreaming her own dreams. He whispered softly, "We'll face everything together. We're going to be okay." In the stillness of the night, he felt the weight of the past lift, replaced by a quiet determination and a deep sense of contentment. The story of yesterday, of the act of kindness that seemed small but changed everything, would stay with him forever. And as he drifted to sleep, he knew that life, in all its unpredictability, had a way of rewarding those who acted with courage, integrity, and compassion.